Hey guys, okay, welcome back for the second half of the Richard Cuff Morning Report. I am Richard Cuff, president of CTI Marketing, founder of Nasimba Business Alliance, and Master Greatness Coach here at GetReadyForGreatness.com. And if you get a chance, get over to our Get Ready for Greatness page and do like the page. And also, let's make certain that it appears. There's the video. I'm going to share this video. Let me share it real quick over on my um, personal page so that I can have those folk join us this morning. And then we are going to, what we're going to do is share it and share now. Okay, now I'm going to get back over to my personal page and make certain that it's there. And if so, we ought to be set. I really and truly thank you guys so much for joining me this morning, and for bearing with all of the technical stuff. Eventually, this right now is a one man show, which is really amazing for the mere fact that in essence I have a whole television channel and broadcasting network right here in my studio, which is just totally awesome. And I'm going to be a little bit more. Let me duplicate this page. I'm going to be a little bit more careful to make certain I'm doing this thing the right way, guys. So let me go back and share this video again, so that you all can see it. And and what do you know? I come back over to my Nasimba page, and again, my video is not there. So I'm really, guys, if you can see me, leave something in the comments. Just let me know that, and where are you checking it out from? Because help me out with my technical stuff here. Because I'm trying to make certain that I can see the video on my actual Nasimba Business Alliance page, which I can't. I should be able to see it because I was just looking at it and it was just there. So somewhere in Facebook's little algorithm here, that's what they're doing. They're telling me the pages are non-responsive. So that may be part of the challenge. Thanks a lot, Facebook, that your pages are non-responsive. But I'm going to continue as if you guys can hear me. So just let's continue to do that. Thank you all for joining me for this edition of the Richard Cuff Morning Report. I want to talk about, let's just get to the news, because that's what I wanted to discuss, is the news of the day, things that are what's really happening and going on here. So I mentioned these four things that I wanted to talk about: Trump's erosion, him heading for the border, the corporate sponsors are bailing out on him, the Florida Democrats picked a new leader, and coronavirus shot, the vaccine. If you've decided to not take it, with getting paid, change your mind. So as far as the Democrats and Trump's impeachment, as you know, insurrection is kind of like a thing that'll get you in trouble. But it's amazing that the spin that is being put on this now is everything from it was free speech to it was Antifa. It's always somebody else. I've never seen one time in 5 years of all the lifetime. I've never seen one time. No one can show me a video where Donald Trump says, "It was my fault. I'm sorry. I apologize. How can I fix it?" He's never said that, and he never will, because that's not, a narcissist will never do that. So it's always somebody else's fault, but it's always all about him. He gets everything that happened on the good column is his. Everything that happened on the bad column is somebody else's. That's a horrible leader. The best leaders they realize that success is a give and take proposition, where the best organizations have the leaders that understand that give and take. Here's how give and take works: give credit where credit is due, and take the blame when it falls on you. If you do that, if you can understand the give and take proposition as a leader, you will be the greatest leader in your organization, greatest leader wherever you go. Always, always, always think give and take. Give the credit whenever the credit is due to someone else, give it to them. And whenever the blame falls on you, even in the slightest way, take it. That's what great leaders do. Well, what Trump has shown us is what pathetic leaders do. Why? Because when during the impeachment, his advisors have told him the best thing you can do is go as far away from Washington as you possibly can. The border. And let's pretend that we're down at the border so that we can talk about the great work you've done down there. He knows there's no great work down there. What he's hoping to do is get half of the media to follow him down there, but he doesn't realize it, that the media is dumping him like rats leaving a ship. They have recognized that the Trump train has run off the tracks and is on fire. The building is on fire, fire. Not today, not today. For those of you who have seen that video, you know what I'm talking about. Well, that the building is on fire, but according to Alex Koenig, he's a Republican strategist. He was with he worked with Marco Rubio in his 2016 campaign. He says every president tries to burnish his legacy by highlighting perceived successes in the final days. But he adds this: Trump's problem among many is that this trip to the border will be completely overshadowed by the fallout from last week. And you think, really? You think the insurrection is going to like make his little trip to the border wall insignificant? Of course it is. It is the big news. You know, the only person that's with a sound mind that might be happy about the fact that the news is all on Washington right now is Alec Baldwin's wife, um, Hilaria, whatever her name was. You know that was going to be the big story. That here is a Karen who pretended to be a Hispanic, got married, got a baby from one of the wealthiest, most successful men in America, and then it was found out that she pulled what's the woman's name that pretended to be black and was over the NAACP or the NAACP, something like that, and then found out she was white. Yeah, it's that same thing. That truly was going to be the big story, and it was lining up to get bigger and bigger and uglier and uglier. And next thing you know, insurrection. And so anything that happened before that is not news anymore. So yeah, everybody is being focused, and as should be. We all should be focused on that. So there's some major fallout, but let's talk about the next item on my list of stories, because of this fallout, corporate sponsors are bailing out on Trump. Now, this is significant because the corporations have been using since the passing of Citizens United, basically, that said a corporation is a person, and I'm going to have to really dig into that in later episodes to help you understand how we got to the point of a corporation actually being a person. But I can tell you that it's rooted back in the 15th Amendment. No, the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment, and basically Amendments 13, 14, and 15 are the three amendments that make Africans in America, the ones that have this color skin, and anybody that's attached to that group, we are the most constitutionally protected people on earth. It's just that we don't understand how the Constitution protects us. See, whites have protected speech. They have protected gun rights. They have protection of their property. They had all of that because it was assumed that that was an inalienable right, something that was already given to you. And so the Constitution makes certain that the rights that you have are never taken away. So that's why your right to speech, which you can speak right now, but it'll never be taken away by this government. Your right to bear arms, which you have right now, will never be taken away by the government. Well, what about the right to have these damn chains off my legs, right? Slaves. We, at the same time, this nation was saying that the rights that you have as a white male with money, because that's who, let's not get this twisted. The only person that could vote on this stuff, that could come to these meetings, were white men who had money. The only people who could vote were white men who owned property. And that was for what, right up until 1867 or so, when the 15th Amendment, well, no, because we got to go closer to the end of Reconstruction, so maybe 76, 77. But up until that time, blacks in America were not able to vote. So only white men, property owners, could vote until the end of slavery. And then it was black men who could vote because women couldn't vote. So you had white men, property owners, who could vote. And then you added to that black men could vote. And you go and look at the black and white picture of politics. It's you draw a timeline, and you go from 1776 all the way to 1877. And so even 1876, so 100 years. If you go 100 years, you will see year after year, up 80 years, 90 years. We go, let's see, 65. Yeah, we go 90 years. White decade, white. Civil War, 65, up to 65, and then 1866, 67, black, 68, black, 69, black, 77, black. And then came what's called the Compromise of 1877. And you started seeing the erosion of black leaders. In fact, in Wilmington, North Carolina, I think it is, there is a massacre that took place where whites rose up, similar to the way white people did in what the insurrection was. If you want to know what this insurrection would have, if it had been successful, if you want to know what it would have looked like, look at Wilmington. I think it was Wilmington. I'll have to research that, but there, where whites went into a town that was predominantly controlled by black politicians and killed them and chased them out of town and took over, and still the foundation of the political system is still there today. So yes, this insurrection thing is serious. And now, because of the 14th Amendment that was written during that period, 13, 14, and 15, corporations are now considered people. But that wasn't corporate. It's not like corporations suddenly considered themselves people. When the 14th Amendment was passed, immediately white attorneys figured it out that you could argue with the government if slaves are given this right to protection because they're considered property, and now property are considered people. Well, then if property can be considered people, we corporations are property, and we too shall be considered people. And it took them 100 years to get that crap passed, but it got passed in Citizens United. And now we see what the problem is. You got people called corporations with trillions and billions of dollars to put behind the white politicians that they want to keep in power. That's all it is. It's a game, but it backfired on them bigly. And now, while corporations are trying to bail out and get this money out, I want to run this down to you and just give you an idea of what happened. Big business often donate to both political parties. That's how they hedge their bets. And they say their support is tied to narrow issues of specific interest in their industries. That's what they say. Nah, it's always about keeping the power that they've always had. That became increasingly fraught, though, last week when when the pro-Trump mob stormed the Capitol. You remember that? Yeah. And Republican lawmakers tried to overturn Joe Biden's in the presidential election. So after that came the fallout. Tons of companies, billions of dollars, have since reviewed their political giving via their political action committees. That's the part that they have the right to be like people. So all these corporations have political action committees. Now they're looking at where they're putting their money. So some big banks are now pausing donations. Who? Goldman Sachs, for one. They're freezing donations. JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup. So you remember all these guys who were the ones who destroyed our economy back in 2008 and then got the government bailout? And once they got the government bailout and they got back, now they're using the money that we used to bail them out. They're using that money to pay for politicians to keep us pressed down. Yes. So those are happening. Now you got some companies that are also pausing donations to specific corporations. For example, Marriott said it will stop donating money to those who voted against the certification of the election. So that's specific. Blue Cross and Blue Shield, which is big here in Florida. Boston Scientific, Commerce Bank Shares, they also are taking a similar approach. They freeze their donations as well. But you know, this stuff is not permanent, and that's what you got to watch out for. So keep an eye on that, because the suspensions coincide with the first quarter after the presidential elections, which, you know, typically it shines a light on their fundraising anyway. So all they're really doing is saying, wait a second, there's too much emphasis on politicians right now and what they are doing, and if we're not careful, somebody's going to start looking at our donations to Trump. And when they see that we're the ones who gave Trump the money to make him that, they're going to tie that back to us. And what we now need to do is go and wash our hands. No, it's not going to happen, because there are way too many people, little bitty podcasts like myself. There are people all over the place that are bringing light to the reality that there's a host of companies who have donated money to political organizations. And but here's an intriguing question. Will these companies ask for their money back? That's the key. Ken Gross, a partner with the law firm, said he hadn't seen evidence of that, but he noted that the pause may be prolonged depending on how the dust settles. And see, here's the key. This is where we, the people, can serve a real good purpose. We have to keep kicking up the dust. We got to keep kicking it up and don't let it settle. Don't let it can't go back to business as usual. We went back to business as usual after 9/11. We went back to business as usual after 2008. We went back to business as usual after Trump won office, because we tried to think, can we just get back to normal? Well, you could see that Trump made certain that we never got back to normal, because he thrives in abnormalities. He thrives when people who don't think of themselves as normal are in the forefront, and he can speak to those because he speaks their language. So there's this, we'll see what happens. As Trump always says, he always says this, we'll see. Yes, we'll see what happens. Let's continue. Number 3 on my list, the Florida Democrat Party picked a new leader, but where is he leading the party? Manny Diaz, who is now the head of the Florida Democrat Party, he said, now fellow Democrats, I'm quoting him, he says, quote, now fellow Democrats, our real work begins. It will not be easy. I pledge to all listening that from this moment forward, I will spend every moment of these next 4 years working tirelessly together with all of you to focus on our greatest and most important priority, to elect Democrats to office up and down our state and improve the lives of all Floridians. Now, this I am asking to the Democrats, because see, I'm not a Democrat. I've been no party affiliation for almost 30 years. Now, I do change my party affiliation if I feel I want to get involved in the primaries. And I've been making certain to vote in every primary because it's been every election since maybe since Bush and Gore. I'll say that every election since Bush and Gore, the primaries have been really, really, really important, because if we don't speak up loud and clear in the primaries, you end up allowing a particular horse to gain momentum that they could actually make it really close. And that's what Bush did. That's what they tried to do with Obama, but Obama lapped everybody, and it wasn't anywhere close. There was no arguing whatsoever in either of the Obama elections as to whether or not there was fraud or anything like that. But you saw what happened with Biden. All right. So now we've got Manny Diaz as president of the Democrat Party. But here's what I want you to understand. Was that move calculated? Was that the Republican, the Democrat Party, especially the whites in the Democrat Party, flipping a coin and saying, you know what, we could either take the party to the side of blacks and put a black person as a head of the Democrat Party. But we know if we do that, the whites who are Democrats could probably leave the Democrat Party and go over to Republican, or at the very least become no party affiliation and take with them their money. So we don't want that to happen. So if we go and get a Cuban from Miami, now if I say Cuban and Miami, what does that mean to you as it relates to this last election? Well, the reason why Trump won the state of Florida was because Cubans voted overwhelmingly for him. Why? Because the moment you say socialist, the word socialist attached Joe Biden to Castro. Even though the Cubans got the biggest handout that you could possibly get, and that's American citizenship. But they closed the door on anybody else getting anything by electing Trump as the winner in the state of Florida. You look up at Duval County, it turned blue. So the question would be, why didn't the Democrat Party come and get the mayor of Jacksonville, the black mayor of Jacksonville, the black Democrat mayor of Jacksonville to be the head? Why didn't they even consider him? They didn't even consider Al Brown. But because why didn't they consider Al Brown? And Duval County is the ground zero of Florida turning blue. But they didn't. There are a couple other counties that turned blue, but overwhelmingly, the reason why Donald Trump won the state of Florida was because of Cubans. And the Democrat Party chose a Cuban over an African-American woman who was also suggested by the outgoing president. So I'll get a little bit more into that, and we'll talk about more on the Richard Cuff Weekend Report podcast. So, just get ready for that. Then finally, I'm going to end with this. Got a question for you. If you decided not to take the coronavirus, if they offered you $1,200, would you take it? Would you say, no matter how much money they offered me, I am not going to take that shot? So is there a price? And what's the reason for it? What's the reason for you not taking it? Two prominent economists have this theory. Gregory Mankiw, and Robert Leetan, and politician John Delaney and Andrew Yang, and not our John Delaney here in Jacksonville, but Andrew Yang, have proposed to support paying Americans to receive the vaccine. At first glance, it seems like a reasonable idea. Economics teaches us that people respond to incentives, but behavioral research suggests this strategy could backfire. Humans don't respond to incentive like rats pressing levers for food. That's what you got to understand. They try to interpret what being offered payment means. In this case, the offer risks implying that the vaccine might have something that's not of value. It might be like, well, we know it's gonna kill you, but would you take it if I gave you 1,500? See, that's That's the way it appears. So, but a study cited a paper entitled Tom Sawyer and the Construction of Value. And it's referring to a famous section of the Mark Twain book in which Tom persuades his friend that whitewashing a fence is a desirable activity. So they found that when people aren't sure whether something is good or bad, the prospect of payments helps them decide in the negative. So the idea is this: if I don't know if it's good, I don't know if it's bad, but you're going to pay me to try and find out, then it must be bad. That's the thought. And so that's what's happening with this vaccine. But why say $1,200 to take the vaccine? Why not just here's a $1,200 stimulus? That's better than anything. There's so much distrust with the government right now because we're playing games with things like a little $1,200 check. But now we want to turn around and attach that $1,200 to some incentive to take the vaccine. What's going to happen is this: people who had already decided to take the vaccine anyway will look at this as a bonus check. I've already decided to take the vaccine, but you know what? If you pay me $1,200, I'll take the vaccine. All right. So in one of these studies, a professor asked his students in the Mark Twain Tom Sawyer in the conservation of value study. The professor asked his students whether they would attend a reading of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass, offering half of the students payment for attending the reading, while asking the other half if they would pay to attend. Those offered payment wound up reporting less interest in attending. For those unsure about vaccinated, like those unsure about attending the poetry reading, paying will most likely send the message that this is something you would not want to do without compensation. Now think about that. When if I paid you for something, you are going to value it less than if I said to you, you must pay to get it. That's just human nature. So, guys, as I wrap up today's broadcast, I want you to think about that concept in your business, though, right? When you're offering something for free or giving somebody an incentive, they're more likely to ask, what's wrong with it? Why are you incentivizing me? What's the catch? And that's what it is let's get away from the need to have a catch. Let's do business with each other at fair market value. As you guys know, I'll end on that the mission of December Business Alliance is to encourage our members to do business with each other at fair market value. With that, guys, let's have a great day. Let's be fair with each other. And until tomorrow, take care.